Anthony, we're back. We're talking about Passover Seder, and you agreed to come on and just say a little bit. We're talking about the passage in the Haggadah, which comes towards the end of the telling of the story, which speaks about this Raban Gamliel fella, and he says that we haven't finished the evening until we've spoken about three key things: Pesach, Matzah, Maror. Why those three? What on earth are we talking about?
Right. So Raban Gamliel, who's probably one of the first organizers of anything like a Pesach Seder, and you'd have thought if he was giving you the three sine qua nons of the Seder, you might start at the beginning, say before you start. But as it comes, it's like right at the end of Maggie, doesn't it? It's like you get to the end, you've done all this talking and all this singing, you've been there for an hour, and then there's a hold your horses moment. Let's check. Have we actually covered the basics? Pesach, Matzah, Maror. And this is where there's like a halachic question, which is relevant for why we're saying it. Because the Rambam thinks that the mitzvah of Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, of recounting the story of the Exodus from Egypt, is what Raban Gamliel thinks you haven't fulfilled until you've talked about these three things. The whole mitzvah is to explain why is it that these three objects on our Seder plate and in the middle of our evening are symbolic and representative of our journey out of Egypt. And you need to explain the symbolism of the mitzvah. You can't just do the mind without intention. You have to be mindful. Otherwise, you haven't told the story if it's just some random food bits and a bit of sing-song. And then there's another opinion that says, no, there's a mitzvah of Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, telling the story. And there's a mitzvah to eat maror and a mitzvah to eat matzah. And those are also unusual mitzvot in that you need to explain what you're doing. They require kavanah, they require intentionality. But anyway, by either halachic read, for whatever reason, the explanation is important. He's not saying until you have seen these things or eaten these things, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. Whatever it's about, the Seder is a night with lots of chat. And this is a place where the chat is fundamental to fulfilling whatever it is we think we're doing.
Wonderful. So it's interesting, though, that if you take the first explanation, that you could explain a story by way of a symbol, or tell a story by way of a symbol. And this seems to be very, very fundamental to that correlation or that interrelationship between the symbols on the table and the story that we're trying to tell. And and
I think that's where the Haggadah is like advanced pedagogy. Because we learn in the Mishnah, Lefi da'ato shel ben aviv melamdo. You teach the kid according to his wisdom, according to his understanding. And we know some people will learn by speaking and reading, and some people, they need to act it out. They need to taste it. They need sensory input. And it's like Raban Gamliel is coming from the back and saying, you can't just eat the thing and expect everybody to know what's going on. You have to approach it from every pedagogic angle. And to fulfill the mitzvah, you need to have symbols, you need to have icons, you need to have things that bring it to life. And the bitter taste of the maror, as we all know, that's where, and particularly the halachic need to eat this absurd quantity of maror, it's really meant to be a type of remembering, a type of learning.
And then if you stretch the a father needing to teach his son, or a parent needing to teach the child according to that child's way or according to the child's needs, we also have the specific drush inside the Seder, which says we need to that we ourselves left Egypt. And this is one of my favorite just single words of the Seder, Ki'ilu, that the creative play, the theatric aspect of the Seder is to play out, that we ourselves feel like at the end that we've gone on a journey. And in that context, I love that image of Raban Gamliel shouting out from the back and saying, no, we haven't done my favorite part, which is the bit which is most crucial to my learning and my understanding and my ability to feel like I'm part of this story. That seems to be really... Go on.
And Raban Gamliel, that passage leads on to the B'chol Dor Vador you're talking about. And there's this beautiful read of the Malbim on what is the structure of the Haggadah. And he brings it all back to the pasuk that we're talking about, which is V'higadata levincha b'yom hahu lemor. You should teach your child that day, saying, Ba'avor zeh, for this reason, Asa Hashem li, God did this to me, B'tzeiti mi Mitzrayim, in my exodus from Egypt. And he takes each part of the Haggadah and says, this bit relates to those words of the verse. This bit relates to those words of the verse. And if you read it, it's like it's kind of convincing, but it's a nice read. And he says Raban Gamliel, this passage that we're talking about, relates to Ba'avor zeh. For this, because of this, on this, and this is why zeh and that explanatory pointing process, and you hold up the matzah when you're talking about it, you hold up the maror, you don't hold up the zeroah, lest people think it's the sacrifice, but the Ba'avor zeh, for this, it's so participatory that then when it leads into Ki'iluhu yatzami Mitzrayim, as if you yourself did it, that it's so live in your head. There's a drama and a theater to it, which really works for me at least.
Great. And I guess we could also ask the question then, in that theater and in that acting out, about why the order of Pesach Matzah Maror. And with that, I'm going to give you the final words, and also wish your family a really happy and good Chag, and give you just a couple of words, maybe talk to the order of those three things, and wish us farewell on our way, on our journey out of Mitzrayim.
Exactly. Yeah, and the orders were weird because it seems to be kind of out of order. Like Pesach, the bit of the redemption, kind of happens in the middle, and then Maror is beforehand, and Matzah is at the end. So it's like he gives them over out of order, and that there are several nice reads. My favorite of which is Rav Simcha Bonim of Peshizcha, who says, why does Maror come at the end in Raban Gamliel's telling, where it happens at the beginning in the story? And the reason is that all the time through slavery, people suffered through it, but they got on with it. And each day they wake up, and each day they go to work, and each day they go to bed. And it's only when they leave that they could look back and understand the enormity of what they went through. And that seemed like a very true insight for me. That's how life works. That you go to a sports match, and if there's a last minute winner, then it turns out you had a good afternoon, and the other team gets a last minute winner, it turns out you had a terrible afternoon. Like, experience is something that we only understand afterwards, and we understand whether it was good or bad. And Pesach is the most presenty of the Jewish festivals, the one that most clearly exists between a past story and a future story, and you're in the moment. And I love that read of Simcha Bonim that says that's why Maror comes last, because you can only really understand something afterwards. You can only really place it in its scale and its context once you've left. Anyway, with that, I wish you all a Chag Sameach. It's been lovely to be with you as always.
Lovely to welcome you. Thank you, Anthony. Go safely.